Great. Thank you. Carlene, do you have access to turn on your, I mean, you don't have to. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I probably won't be on
Okay.
camera though.
All right, got it. I hope everything's okay. I'm gonna copy the links again for everyone to see. Okay. All right. I think we're good.
All right. Thank you, everyone. So welcome to the July 26th meeting. We have a pretty stacked deck for today. It's actually included in the chat to the right. The first thing that I wanted to do was kind of go over our 2023 safety and mental health report planning. So one of the things that we really wanted to do, which is the top part, is really just clarify the purpose of this report. Darren had really been extremely helpful in moving some of this forward, but we wanted to figure out like who is the report going to, clarify what we think our purpose of this report would be. So just right now, just wanted to get some feedback from anyone, including you, Darren, as well, as to what we see as the goal of the school safety and mental health report.
This, I hope we could, depending on what we hear, bring some recommendations to either one of the school authorities or the council.
Yeah.
And how is this different from what the student advocate does, or are we going to loop Darren in? I know that was one of the questions because they do such a thorough, so many questions related to. It's not a, I don't think it's a dedicated safety report, but he does so many elements of safety in his report, and I believe that was a question from President Thompson at some point.
I think you're on mute, Darren.
Do you mind if I field that question
Please
really
do.
quickly? So really, this is kind of the state of safety and mental health, as in instead of doing community engagement in 2023, it's just covering what's been done already. So Carlene, that's a great question about OSA. We're just looking at what OSA has done, what OMB, Office of the Ombudsman's Office has done on safety, mental health, their recommendations, their outreach, as well as any other organization, any agency, just like what has been done in the past few years on this, so that this committee is not duplicating that work. So part of the purpose is just to kind of tee up what kind of outreach the committee would do in 2024 to lead towards recommendations.
Gotcha.
As I understood it from past conversations, that this report would really just kind of get what's happened the past few years up to December 2023, and be published in January or February 2024. So it kind of captures everything of 2023 and a few years before that.
Got it. And I'm not trying to be funny, but we need a report to define like how we need to act on safety or be guided towards safety.
Do you mind if I take that, Brandon?
Go for it.
It would be more of a snapshot of not just that, but this document that I shared. If you go to the key items for 2023, that report, it would be defining safety. So the last meeting that we were in, or the last committee meeting, it was like, how does the committee define safety? and using student voice around that. And that's one of the questions coming up, but like, are we doing mental health as well? But also, what is the status of state board resolution recommendations related to safety? So this is just a snapshot of what did the state board recommend for the past few years? What is current work being done currently or completed in the past few years? And what are the current safety and mental health statistics? And all of this in the report would help guide the work moving forward with the committee. The report is a snapshot, basically, of everything. It's a comprehensive snapshot, as far as I know, and that's just from the conversations I heard. This is what I put together based on the past few committee meeting conversations.
Cool. I mean, I'm also, I think we're also open to like other suggestions as well with that. Okay. So yeah, so I guess just clarifying the report. All right, did you have any thoughts on that, Robert? I mean, excuse me, Representative Henderson.
You can call me Robert. No, I mean, I still need to learn more about what we're doing here, but I think I understand.
Do we need to, and maybe this is what we can do, because I totally hear where you're coming from, Representative Reed. Do we all need to take a deeper dive into like that other report as well, to see what we can get from that? I completely also understand the snapshot and the difference between the two. But just, you know, in the effort to ensure we're not duplicating, but also ensuring every voice is heard, do we want to just take some time in between this meeting and the next to align on what that looks like or what we should be doing? Does that make more sense?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I mean, I think the way that was described by Darren, and I mean, you all make kind of sense about why. I was just kind of like, if we have the documents, just act on all the recommendations that we already have and go back and look at the resolutions. But it seems like it's necessary for some reason to just consolidate. And I would say, I think I said this the last meeting, I'm just a big proponent of action. And we have 1,000 documents. Let's act on the documents that we have, but it seems like the board needs something. So if the board needs it, happy for it.
Darren, you look like you were saying something.
Oh, I'm petting my cat.
Oh.
But yeah, it's just, there's a lot out there. Like I pulled up just a lot, like just the resolutions alone from the state board would be good to just see where we're at with those and just kind of having just one solid document that pieces everything together. Just so more, like, for example, part of the work plan for this committee was having a survey and focus group. But just before doing that, making absolutely sure we're not asking the same questions that other people did. Or other organizations did. And so just through a snapshot, kind of taking a look at what's out there.
So that means, I'm sorry for cutting you off. So that means looking at the different resolutions that we have from the state board that connect with school safety, connecting with the student advocate and the work that they're doing, connecting with the ombudsman to connect with their work, as well as to see what is going on with other organizations. Is that the thought process? Just so that I'm aligned.
Exactly. Start with those agencies, look at like DME, others, kind of first mapping out who these agencies, like which agencies to reach out to, and then also other organizations like the DC Policy Center. They've done reports on student safety in the past, kind of like taking a look at what each of the agencies and organizations in DC have done. And then using that report to find gaps in the literature, to both like understand what's going on the ground in terms of safety, as well as where are there gaps in that. Because I know the state board has even tackled items that haven't been really like much policy has been produced on.
So if we're going this route, I guess what makes the most sense about heading in this direction is, are we like, is it something where you can check out the state board resolutions? Maybe I could connect with other organizations like the DC Policy Center for their reports, and we all come back with like those various reports to share with the team. Is that an actionable step?
Yes, and I'm glad you brought that up. So like just delegating each of those sections, so like each member has a role to play, and just being clear with that, so that I could then put together the notes from this meeting, anything offline, of just like who is working on what, and then putting the deadlines down. I think the most immediate, if we're last meeting you mentioned defining safety, if we're going to go down that route, the most immediate would be having a way, like establishing how we're going to collect that feedback, what the questions are going to be, because school is starting at the end of August. And I know that there's a lot of back to school events coming up. There's like a lot of ways to engage with students that are coming up. And so having both the talking points of this committee, if we're doing like a fall engagement, just talking about like what the committee's work is for this year, just having like some quick points on that, as well as a way to collect feedback if we're going to have students in front of us. And if that's being extended to teachers or anything else, just like having a plan ahead of those engagements.
So the way I'm looking at it right now is, so there are a couple like lanes of thought or avenues of thought right here. So one is looking at what we've done in our wheelhouse already, like looking at the reports from the student advocate, looking at our work and reporting out on our work, or doing the action, or checking to see the progress towards the action, and then maybe like acting on it to the best that we can, or like doing a comprehensive mapping of all the different agencies that we identify. Is that I'm just trying to make sure I'm aligned.
The mapping part is just, I think, one of the steps towards outreach to like first seeing what's available publicly online, connecting with those offices, filling in any gaps around that, just kind of reaching out to the staffer involved with that work, saying, I see this on your website, is there anything else I might be missing? Putting that together and just having putting pieces of a puzzle together of just like what's been done already on safety, so that then you can identify what the gaps are, what if the state board is to do outreach. So just to take an example, say 3 or 4 different agencies already asked students, do you feel safe at school? It wouldn't make much sense for us to then ask the question, do you feel safe in school? I mean, it's a very simplified example, but it's like having something like, even it doesn't even have to be a survey question, a structured interview question. What makes recreation centers safe for you? So just getting an idea of what's missing in the research and what other agencies and organizations have done that we can further explore, as well as using what the other agencies have done, like using this report to have an idea of what's going on the ground. And even and say there is a report that that asks students, are you safe? Was it done in a way that's representative of all of DC? Are there wards missing, or are groups of students missing? That's part of the report as well, is just kind of take kind of a crosswalk of, here are the different reports that have been done. Here's what they say. Here's how they were done. It's comprehensive, but it prevents us from doing the same work and putting the same resources that have already been used. Like the OSA has been very comprehensive with outreach, so it's not something that maybe we would need to pursue. But that's how I've been understanding the past few conversations from the committees, or from this committee.
So I have one last question. First off, by the way, thank both of you for providing insights. Dr. Reed, when you're talking about, like, you know what, we got these reports, let's get to the action, right? Like what are some of the things you're thinking about, like when it says let's get to the action? Are you talking about like let's see what those reports say and then let's do something about it? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, something like it. I think if I could echo what the board would probably say, it's going to be the both and. So, I mean, I get having the, like, I mean, it seems like something it's a scholarly approach. Yes, let's consolidate and look. I'm also thinking school is, while we're doing our report, school is starting in August. I know Ward students want a dedicated bus between that works the Congress Heights corridor and works the corridor between Anacostia Metro up to the Blue area. When is there a school year that nothing dramatic hasn't started related to safety? And yes, it might be great for us to say we're working on a report. It also be helpful to say, like, hey, agencies, like, in this month, how are we ensuring that students have as safe as possible start to the school year? I know we're a big city and can't, protect everybody from all the ailments that, being a big city sometimes comes with. But, we do have some pretty immediate, I mean, studying Dan's 2018, the Student Advocates 2018 report, just about how many students said that they get harassed from, being on the bus, paired with community member. I think actually one of my community members was just recently on Twitter saying her daughter was assaulted on the bus. There are some things that we know are going to happen and we know students want. So, like, I'm curious to know, while we are collecting data for this report and finding loopholes, what are we going to do? I don't even know this year's start date. We have so many staggered start dates, to like just say, here is how we're moving forward with what we know now. And I think that really means something to our residents of we've heard you all, and we're acting on what we have at the moment. And we're also collecting information so that we can, I know a lot of talk of safety going on. The reason why I did my Blue and Anacostia trips were because I just felt that the definition for safety was being developed without students in mind. And I wanted to hear directly from students. But we have a lot that we just need to, like, I know we're an agency that, often can't immediately ignite the fire to get things started, but we know school's starting and we know what's going to come, what a lot of times, and we don't hope it comes with it, but we know those stories that emerge in the first 2 weeks of school that are very tragic and often sad. And I just don't like us to be in a position of saying, we're developing a report. So thank you for circling back. I do, but I did, Darren, I wholeheartedly hear you about like, what's the status of our resolutions? I have said that too on Mike of, we have some great resolutions that we need to pick it up and keep going and making sure we hit all those whereas points. Even Dan's reports, student advocates reports, making sure that even, his recommendations, have we, how has the board guided, and led the charge towards actions related to those things. So it's helpful. It seems like the report's helpful to be a visual of saying, hey, these are all the things that were done that still we haven't tied a boat on as much as we can. And we also know school is starting less than a month.
Yeah, thank you. As you share that, I hear you. And I'm like, I actually agree. It seems like there are, like you said, there are two parts. It's a yes and it's like a collect and reach out. So like one, we're like collecting information, and then the other is like, how do we leverage our relationships? How do we leverage these reports to, push these onto city officials or to some of the advocacy groups to get them to try to get people to act on it. Because like you said, we don't have that power to do it, but we can still kind of light a fire or light a flame. So I'm wondering, Darren, if when we talk about the responsibilities, if there's like a few of us who can collect information, and then there are a few of us who can also reach out, or if we're all doing both. I don't know what makes the most sense. And so I would ask you all, what are your thoughts on that? But I do agree, like, what is the action? So thanks for, sharing that.
The one thing that I think is an opportunity is, as Safe Passage moves from DME to public safety, to take what we know about that program and what works and doesn't work and what people have asked for, and put that at the feet of the deputy mayor for public safety, as she begins implementing, taking that over.
It's a good idea. Thoughts on that, you all? It seems very actionable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they'll definitely be like the face of the start of school year.
So maybe that's a step one. Like a step one is compiling the information that we have from ours already, and sharing that information.
Yeah, it seems like it can also be done possibly a little faster too. If we have like recommendations, like if we can, I don't want to put nothing on your schedule, and I'm happy to help too. Like, hey, school, education related partners, school's coming up, here are the things that we typically know about the start of school, or we know kind of, ended and weren't in place. Like, what are you doing to begin school year, just so we can, at least have some answers, or be aware. And they might be aware, or maybe they're working on it. Because I just know, like you all too, like you're going to get calls from community members, and it's going to be stuff at the beginning of the school year. And it even just helps inform us of how to respond to our answers when parents are calling and saying, either this is falling apart at the school. I'm talking about safety. Actually had a mom who just enrolled in kindergarten, happy for her being proactive. She's like, hey, my playground is falling apart. So like, we want certain things, like, that it's going to be, usually over the summer, there's often shifts related to what happens in the neighborhood. Like right now, I know Ketchum has a bit of like a unhoused neighbor encampment going on around it because school's not in session. How are we working with, our neighborhood partners when school's getting closer to, make sure that area is where it needs to be for students to commute. So like, maybe getting in touch with our agency partners of like, so that when we get the calls, we know what the status of certain things are, we know how to respond, we know what's being worked on, we know what's going to be in place for the beginning of the school year, we know what's going to be worked on maybe through the first months of the school year. So that does seem a little helpful. And we also can do the more lengthy, which it seems like it's going to take us through the fall into the winter of getting the full report that we are asking for, of like, where are all the loopholes? Where are the questions that have not been answered?
Yeah, I think when we think about the full report, and Darren, correct me if I'm wrong, we're looking at like January-ish. Is that what we're thinking, so that we can fully incorporate everything that's happened in 2023 as well?
Exactly. So if there's an unfortunate crime statistic that happened December 10th, it would be captured. So we could take a look at that in the report and say, this is what happened in 2023. This is what the reports are saying. It would just be another section of that, but kind of creating a story of what's going on in terms of safety and mental health. But yeah, I understand the action part of it, like using our community engagement and collecting feedback to create change. It's similar to like a lot of the teacher retention work that the state board has done. Just collecting data that a lot of it was not being collected. So using that, the findings of that kind of really spurring action around that. I know one thing that members discussed, or this committee kind of discussed, is how with like safe passage, what are the communication routes of that? Like how are people talking to each other? And that's part of what was discussed during the panel on safety, but also just something that, to Carlene's point, could be actionable ahead of the start of the school year as well. It's just like, is everybody like, are all the wires connected so that students can arrive as safely as they can to school, be safe at school, and go home safely from school?
I like that. And you know, the more and more I think about it, or the more and more I listen to you all talk, I think that in general, since I've joined, we've started a lot of new things without necessarily finishing off the work that was done before, or like seeing it fully through. And so to I think Carlene's point, we have these documents, you know, we have these reports, and once again, not saying that we don't do the full report, but we have all of this information. How are we ensuring that, you know, the resolutions are being followed up on? How do we ensure that the reports, that people are reading those reports, or they've seen it? You have people in new offices and new positions who may not have seen it. How do we ensure we finish the work that was before us before we move on to something new? Those are just my thoughts.
We used to have like a resolution tracker, and I'm guessing that still probably happens. It was basically a big old, at least from the board end, a big Excel document that kind of just said like, did like this piece of the whereas happen, or what the status of it is. I think that's how it worked.
Do you still have a copy of that?
I'm sure Darren does.
Yeah, I'm looking for that. It sounds familiar, but I have to
Okay.
it's, when I
Yeah.
say it sounds familiar, it's like we have to dust that off, I think.
Gotcha.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah, we wouldn't have had. Yeah, we haven't done too many resolutions at the moment, or this
Yeah, I
year.
found it. but let me just pull it up.
This is where that knowledge from the previous board information is very important. Thank you, Carlene.
No worries. Great question.
Yeah, the status is not really, I mean, there's a status. Oh, okay, there's a status column. It says complete. So for example, resolution to increase student voice, resolve clause, the state board education shall increase the number of student representatives to 4, beginning school year 2021-2022, status complete. So we do have something. Doesn't seem like there are any statuses for 2022, but it seems like there are some for previous years.
It,
So good call. Yeah, I'll
I
definitely.
wonder if, and please don't get mad at me, Darren. I wonder if there is space for a pivot. And just to, and I can chip in on this too. I think if there, I don't know, did you all have how like resolutions for student safety in the past? Like, did you have a lot of them? Or is it something that's relatively small that could be done where we could check those the resolutions fairly fast?
I think we had several resolutions related to like elements of safety. So there was like a transportation walking one, and this is only goes back to like my probably in the first year. Resolution walking one. Then President Thompson did a bigger one after like that. Was that like last year, I think? Then I did one
Charlene,
on
could I cut you? We our fellow
Mhm,
for the website that we're building out.
mhm.
We created something like an Airtable, so it's like a spreadsheet
Okay.
of resources related to this committee's work. And it lists all of the resolutions related to this. It was also in the primer
Okay.
at the very beginning, like February or so. That primer that staff put together for this committee had the different resolutions, and we just put it in a spreadsheet form. Let me just share my screen with you, but I can also share this afterwards. But these are the resolutions related. Anything that says SBOE resolution are related to student safety or mental health or mental health. In fact, I think we could just filter these. Oh yeah. So yeah, we could filter it, but I mean it's pretty. I could share this with you later, but these are the ones that we could really target and then look at the status of the clauses within it.
That's an awesome link.
And this will be available as well on the website once it's up for members of the public to see different resources to just get a better idea of the work of this committee. So there's more resolutions down here. They have also over here whether when they passed, and then a description of the resolution and what's in it.
So can we put some actionable next steps to this, Darren and team? So I think one thing, like we all need to review this document. Can you go back to that screen, Darren?
Yeah, one moment. So going from the top.
Yeah.
Let me just filter this field. SBOE resolution. Okay, that should be it. All right, these are all the resolutions.
Got it. I'm
It
gonna
was
have a little
17.
bit of time on my hands next week. So if you want, I can go through some of these and maybe just cut down on time for you, Darren. Maybe I can put all like the safety ones, like chart out all the different like clauses in them and maybe put it on a well then can you slide over to the right a little?
Mhm. Is
Uh,
that
well,
this?
these have all been passed. So the resolutions have passed, but we don't know what the actual status is. Like as far as well, these are all 2023
I
July.
do need to add the Seizure Safe Schools one as well. to the-
Gotcha. So this one doesn't go back any further, correct? Or are these just all the ones that are on student safety and mental
Yeah,
health?
these are only dealing with student safety from now back to 2019. We could go further back, but I just wanted to.
Oh, okay, got it. So when it says date added, I'm sorry, I'm looking at date
Oh,
adopted. That's what I
date
should be
added
looking
was
at.
like recently we added these.
Perfect,
two.
perfect. So what I
The
could
date
do,
that they were passed is over here, date adopted, and then these are the dates that they were adopted.
what I can do is I can try to put things into a like a spreadsheet. I mean, I know it's already in a spreadsheet, but I mean the actual clauses, so that we can actually go back and look at the recommendations, and to see if we have done or if the city has followed up on those recommendations. Does that make sense?
Yes, and before you do that, just to make sure that you're not duplicating
Duplicating
work,
it.
this is what we have for that, what Carlene brought up, the resolution tracker. This is what it looks like. So it'd be SR title, resolve clause, and then status. So for 2021, you'd see, yeah, like complete. This is column F is the resolve clause. And the SR number, so on and so forth. So column A, it can be multiple, the same resolution on multiple rows. And column F is each of those resolve clauses. So, I'm happy to work with you, Brandon. Maybe we could carve out some time to put something
Sure.
together. And I could tee something like this up for you, and then we could go over them together, if that
Can we
makes sense.
can we set up two meetings next week
Yeah,
during the day? Hold on, I'm gonna look at my calendar right now. Oh wait, no, we're fine. Wait, let's see. Next week. If we can do one like Monday morning and Tuesday morning,
mhm.
then I think we can figure out how to best move with there and like just have it like as a working session.
Okay.
I can even come to the office if you need, or wherever you are.
Okay. Yeah, I'll touch base offline and send that your way, but just another part of this that would be helpful is just on my end, just the purpose of that work. Just so like what is it leading towards? Is it for just the snapshot and then next steps, or is it more immediate for, like Carlene said, just something leading to something actionable ahead of the school year?
I can jump. I from what I've heard, I'm thinking that this could be something that's actionable that we share with other, like just like kind of like Representative Henderson stated, we can share it with, like the deputy mayor for public safety of public safety. We could share it with DCPS. We can share it with all of our leaders in council, just to say, hey, just a reminder, you all, these are the things that our city, our residents, our constituents have been saying, and these are the reports that we have push forward. And we wanted to check on it. We wanted to check to see if this is still on your radar. And if not, we wanted to just remind you about it and connect with some of the advocacy groups too, who might have a little bit more swing as far as advocacy than we can. What are your thoughts, team? I know I've been speaking a lot, so.
No,
please.
that sounds great to me.
Okay. All right. So Darren, you probably have already done it, but can you put on the next steps that the two of us will work on that?
Mhm.
Thank you, Darren, for being flexible with this as well. I know that you put in a lot of work.
I mean, it kind of goes towards
it does.
report.
It does. It does. I just, I know that you're being flexible, so I appreciate that. That's all.
And I do want to thank again Rochelle Yambo, our new policy analyst, or excuse me, our policy fellow, for putting that Airtable together.
Yeah, that's really nice. So that's awesome work, really fast.
Yeah, she did in a day, so it was pretty.
All right. So I want to move on. I want to be cognizant of time. So are we? I see how we have the agreeing on components of the report. Are we going to discuss that part right now too, Darren? Or are we gonna focus on this part and then move forward with that next meeting? Or do we want to discuss that?
I think the biggest things, like the most immediate, is just really planning ahead. Our next, so we don't have a meeting in August, a committee meeting in August. So our next meeting is September 27th. So between now and September 27th, I mean, we could be flexible, but just how they're scheduled, we would need to know in advance to publicly notice any earlier meetings. But as far as I know, the next committee meeting is September 27th. So between now and then, school would have started, back to school events would have started, all these things. So I think the most pressing thing is just to have a plan of action, or like help me understand the work moving forward between that time. And I think continuing that conversation after this meeting is fine, like just adding your comments in here, but then agreeing to something to move forward with. I think right now, the main thing I would really like to know is this defining safety, if we're sticking to that. And just if we are going to define safety, are we also defining mental health for the committee to do that work? Are we, so let me ask that first. Are we still sticking to that? That was something that was brought up at the previous committee meeting. No, that was one of the engagements that we were hoping to do with students.
Yeah, it seems like we already have some sort of operational definition based on, the resolutions that we've identified, reports that we've identified. In some ways that, is speaking to a definition. I think we just want to keep it broad and open to, if we hear something new that needs to expand what we include, then we do that, but I don't know. And I guess it depends on for what purpose. Like for now, for like just defining or identifying things we can take action on, I think we just receive, the definitions that people have brought to us already. And but if we're doing further engagement, then we can continue to ask what that means to people.
Yeah, I wonder, and this is not my answer, it's just I wonder if the amount of time put into that question, if there's already an overarching theme around it, is the best use. But at the same time, having an operationalized definition helps drive our work. But on the flip side, if there is another definition that comes along or something that relates to student safety that we didn't encounter or didn't think of, does that mean that we will no longer include that? So I do kind of like the idea of keeping it broad, but also being flexible enough to also adapt, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yes. And I'm also thinking in this definition, or as we're developing these things, one thing that became really clear, just doing 2 schools, so they had different they had different standards and thoughts around safety. So there were some overlapping components, but there are also some things that that were different. And so I'm wondering, in defining this or whatever we structure, how do we are keeping open? I mean, that's the equity piece about like there's going to be different needs that need to be addressed. There are going to be some commonalities, but then also like how are we going to address the variety of needs in this definition, this common or whatever we're defining. So I just want to throw that out there, so that I think some of this could be just instead of like all students, it could be like communities. I don't know, but it's just something that I picked up on. It was just interesting. Like students in Anacostia were like, "Yeah, we feel comfortable, safe walking to school," and I'm their neighbor, and I'm like, "You do?" And the students at Blue are like, "No," and we want this and this and this and this. So yeah, I'm just thinking about that and just creating flexibilities around, what certain students are going to advocate for and not advocate for. Yeah, how do we protect those nuances and still support their thoughts?
I like I like that. Just knowing my ward, we have very different needs throughout our ward, so I agree with that as well. I think as I'm thinking through next steps on the fly as we speak, and I think, Darren, maybe the next step is we compile this, this document, and then I can share out something asking the team members for, next steps as far as like what you can commit to doing with this information. Now that we have this information, it's compiled, this document that shows what we have. How can we share this information with our stakeholders or with our lawmakers, or different organizations and advocacy groups? What are your thoughts, team?
Yeah, that sounds good to me. I think, as you do that, you'll compile a list and we'll be able to pull out, well, this needs to go to DME and this needs to go to chancellor, whatever. And we can, I don't know what form that would take, probably a letter, email.
We can, yeah, we can figure that out, the form. And maybe that's another next step from there, but I think, because there's gonna be that gap, I think we need to make sure that we are still staying in communication with each other, so, whether it's via email and just, for everyone to be responsive to those emails, as you can, and, we'll try to map out some next steps. Like I said, Darren and I will connect twice, depending on what your schedule looks like, Darren. I know I said Monday and Tuesday, but I didn't even ask what your schedule is like. So, we can talk about your schedule and then fit in some time, so that I can actually, help contribute with this component.
Got it.
Cool.
And did you want to maybe offline discuss what are some of the talking points we can share leading up to like
Yeah, we can do that. We
like a
can do
later,
that online. Yeah.
but maybe just have early idea to just kind of,
Yeah, I think,
it would kind of like help define the work or
I
help us
think
stick to the work. No, I shouldn't say define the work, but
I think
establish. Yeah, sorry.
no problem. I'm jumping in and sorry. Please continue.
Oh, no, that was it.
Yeah, I think there are two parts of this work. I think there's the immediate component where we're looking at all the resolutions and all the actions that we have, and we are ensuring that work is being done or carried out. We're checking on the status. We're seeing was it, pieces or people chose not to go in that direction? If so, why? Why not? I think we definitely need to make sure we set up that meeting, with the deputy mayor. I think that's going to be big, whether it's a meeting or it's, information sharing. I personally think it's info sharing, via, a letter and a meeting. I think that face to face is really important. And I don't know if that's us or if that's, the president and vice president. But I think that there is something that needs to be done face to face, and sharing, the work that has, been done so that we can ensure that we're carrying on that work and so it doesn't just die with a resolution. I think that's the worst case scenario with all of these resolutions. We have people who've put thought into it. We have people who have worked hard to see it through. People voted on it. And so we want to make sure that that's actually being executed. So I think when we talk about our talking points, one, we say, hey, well, we've compiled all this, information. We want to see it through. We're connecting with our leaders to advocate on behalf of our families and our communities based off of the reports that we're getting. Since that is one of our key responsibilities to kind of, be a voice, to elevate voices. So maybe that's part of it, elevating the voices through connecting with leaders on topics connected with student safety based off of the resolutions that we have. And then we're also going to find the gaps, based off of the rest of the reports, and figure out what some next steps are, actionable next steps are. I know I just said a lot. Hopefully it made sense.
And also I'd be remiss not to mention looping like working with the Office of Student Advocate and the Office of the Ombudsman, since they get so much of these stories. And notifying the members, kind of keeping them in the loop of the highlights. But that was also kind of something featured in that committee, that report. But maybe something that maybe is immediate for this conversation and going to, like, if you have the different agencies' ears or do some sort of face-to-face, having those facts as well of just like what are our sister offices hearing and saying and recommending? Because they didn't do resolutions, but they did do annual reports with recommendations, which is something we could absolutely objectively take a look at and see if those have been what are the status of their recommendations.
So basically sharing out our in-house information with, yes, I agree wholeheartedly. I agree. Sorry about that. Let me bring that over. Perfect. Sorry, let's see, define. I'm just looking through the items. Okay. I think I don't have anything else to add on that topic. We're good to move on. I know there were some outstanding questions. I know I skipped over a lot, but I think we covered most of this in our conversation, if that makes sense. Darren, if you think that I need to go back over, okay, perfect. There were some outstanding questions. Where does HSFN work live with the safety report? Should we just reference it as a separate item? I agree. I think yes. I don't think any one of us are really working that much on that one. I think we should have that as a separate item.
Because facilities would be part of safety, but yeah, it's another report is coming out that'd be separate.
I agree. Thoughts, team?
Sounds good.
Okay, sounds good. What should we present? What are some talking points for okay, so cool. So I think we have that.
Mhm.
I am set to, I will be at a back to school event in Ward 6. And so I'll be sharing that information there. So I'm going to talk to the team about how do we get like all the swag and everything out for that event. But cool. With that being said, Darren, did you have anything else, or team, did you have anything else that you would want to add to this meeting before we close out?
Nothing I can think of. I'm gonna write the meeting minutes for this and just share out. So if I did miss something or if I think of something afterwards, maybe pose it to you or to the committee members and just share that out. Nothing at the moment though, but all of the feedback, or not feedback, but everything that everybody brought up is very helpful.
Thank you, Darren. All right. Anything else from the rest of the team? Going once, going twice.
Just let us know how to plug in and support y'all as well.
Right.
Yeah, that was one quick thing that I did want to say is that committee member engagement with this work, I think really helps with the follow through of like make sure that, well, not make sure, but it really helps with ensuring that actionable items go through and are implemented, I think. So yeah, I could definitely look out for please comment on that SharePoint document that you all are in, on just your thoughts, your feedback, but also areas that you would really like to work on. And I'm happy to work with you, similar to how Brandon and I are going to connect and work on the resolutions. These other sections, if I'm missing any sections, like this is just based on the conversations that we've had in the past. But if there's anything in the sections that are missing that you want to see in there, I mean, definitely thinking about our capacity, our limited capacity, but anything that might be missing, still just add it in there. Say you want to work on it, and I and possibly our policy fellow could help work on it with you. But just kind of highlight it and add it as a comment. Like, I want to work on this and I'll connect with you offline.
Okay, this outline report planning document is what you're referring to for, we can,
Yes, the report planning document. Yeah, just make comments in there and that would be most helpful, especially this key items for the safety and mental health report, I think would be helpful.
okay. And it helps me. So there will be like a recap in the, for this, I know we were missing a community member, a recap of what we did and like to-dos with this link. That helps me because it kind of, I literally go and queue by what's queued up in my email for how I respond. It's just a weird way about how I don't miss or try not to miss stuff. So I'm guessing like that will be helpful because yeah, ping pong between work and state board and other stuff. I
Yeah,
guess.
no, absolutely. I'm gonna rewatch the recording of this, put out the minutes. One other outstanding thing that I just remembered was in our work plan, we have down that we're gonna do student teacher outreach and engagement. But I don't know if we'd be able to do that as soon as we can. So just updating the work plan on that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And question, I know we're over about the work plan. I added so the work, I added a couple items, I think from whenever it was being developed. And I wasn't sure, like, is it the work plan's approved? Are we now officially working towards this plan?
Yes, and there is flexibility with updating it, but it was just something that we try to stick to. But like this vendor complete, like we no longer are going to seek a vendor for FY23. To do we would no longer do focus groups because based on previous conversations, we wanted to make sure that we're not asking the same questions. So have the report first and then FY24 work with a vendor, like create a survey and have focus groups on something that that wouldn't be duplicative in nature.
Gotcha. And I guess I added some stuff. I was just making sure, like, yeah. Where can I find the work plan? And I'll just
Oh yeah, absolutely. Here, I'm
yeah,
gonna put it.
yeah.
I'm gonna put it in
I
the chat.
added some stuff for the sexual assault work, and I wasn't sure. In my head, I was like, I'm not starting until I'm given the go of like this is okay. And then a lot of my stuff was basically we have to talk to Aussie first.
Yeah, and I know we're a little over on time. I'm sorry to like bring up
It's okay.
things for you guys. Okay. I put the
Oh,
link in the chat. Oh, I see you, Carlene.
oh yeah.
What did you add in here?
Oh. I thought I was acting on an action item from one, I think y'all's first meeting about there was recommendation to add the sexual assault stuff in there.
Yeah, I remember I remember you mentioning it, and either we added it or haven't. I could have sworn we added it, but I'm just looking for it. In fact, I'm just gonna maybe I don't see it. Could we work offline on that, or do you remember? I'll have to go back in my notes
Yeah,
and
and I might have emailed, I can't remember if I emailed the points or I put them into the document itself. But no, in my head, I was just like, I was adding them, but I guess I was waiting for we are clear to start on the work plan. So yeah, are we clear to start on the work plan on the items?
yes, and it was just like making sure that we update the timeline and with like these new dates. So instead of having publishing the report by the end of December, it would be later January, February 2024, things like that. But I do remember you mentioning and possibly emailing on sexual assault. So let me look for that can I connect with you after the meeting, Carlene, just to confirm where to add that? And maybe if you want to add that, or I can add that on your behalf. Let me just look that up. Does that work for you, Carlene?
Sure, I'll be available for a bit. I'm just, yes. Yes. Yes.
I mean, I'll just either text message you or email you and just confirm over email.
Cool.
All right, well, I will wrap the notes and get back to you.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you for your time. And this concludes our meeting.
Thank you so much.
Good night.
Night.